Hi everybody, welcome back to Old Timer Noob plays GMT Silver Bayonet. Today I'll be playing through turn 3 and maybe turn 4 of scenario 4 Into the Valley. I noticed after the last video that I had made a mistake in calculating movement cost for the Pavin here in the mountain jungle hexes. I was using a movement value of 3 when I should have been using a value of 4. I'll try not to make that mistake in this video. So this is where we ended up at the end of game turn 2. I can get rid of this and advance the game turn marker to game turn 29. It'll be the Pavin's turn. Adjusting the FWA air points, the FWA gets another 15 points, but since we lost a point permanently a few turns ago, we're only going to allot 14. Remove first and final fire markers. Recover fatigue. By special rule, the 3 fatigue units that are not adjacent to an enemy unit can recover their fatigue, so we can get rid of these. No headquarters are being replaced. Now it's time for the Pavin to place new units. So this turn the Pavin is receiving all these units as reinforcements, and they're all going into hex 1626 right here. So I'll go ahead and move them in here. Time for some movement. I think I'll move these 3 units of the 9th Battalion. 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. 4. And I'll move the rest of their battalion in here with them. It's 4, 8, along with this mortar. 4, 8, 4, 8, 4, 8, 4, 8. Let's see, movement for dense jungle is 3. All right, it's 3. Four, 4. I think that's it for movement. Combat declaration. Well, let me see what we have. This is my ultimate goal. I have a defense of 4, 8, 13, 17. I think even with all these units here, it'd be very difficult to get a favorable odds ratio for maneuver combat against this hex. So I think I might just conduct a regular assault against this hex with these units. The FWA only have 2 defense strength points in here. So that would give me a 5-to-1 ratio here for maneuver combat. Maybe I'll do maneuver here. And I can use these units to assault over here. So I'm attacking 3 different hexes, 2 with assault combat, 1 with maneuver combat. Offensive bombardment. This being the ultimate goal, I think I'll allocate my mortars to bombarding this hex. The FWA has no air defense, so it'll be 4 bombardment points. None of the modifiers apply. I'll be rolling on this column. 9. No effect. Combat reaction, there's no combat refusal, no defender reaction, so it's time for combat resolution. Now we'll be doing this combat resolution phase for each defending hex, and I'll start with this one here. So first, roll for coordination. This attacking stack of units is within the headquarters command range of 3, so we can roll against the ER of 6. Roll a 3, so he is coordinated. There's no maneuver combat. For assault combat, the defender allocates and resolves air and or artillery. I think the FWA player is going to allocate all 14 points of air. And to remind myself, or before I forget, I'll move it now. So I'll be allocating to this hex right here. I think in previous videos I was putting my air points marker on top of the assaulting stacks, but in reality when you're using air points or artillery for defensive bombardment, you measure to the defending hex. So you're actually applying all this bombardment power into the defending hex because that's where the assaulting units are. They're moving into here. So I'll place it there. Since I do have a number of PAVN units adjacent to this mission hex, it's possible that the PAVN could use air defense fire. In order for that to happen, he needs to have more than 15 or more steps adjacent to here. So let's count. That's 2, 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 13. That's more than enough. So he can use air defense. There will be -1 die roll modifier for the revealed artillery unit. Seven minus 1 is a 6, so that is a miss. So now the FWA can allocate all 14 air points to bombardment. No die roll modifiers apply. I'll be rolling on this column. 8. It's 1 divided by the always TDV of 2 for the attackers. That's a fraction, no effect. Next, the defender rolls on the assault combat table with a total defense strength of 13, 17. None of these modifiers apply, so it'll just be a straight roll on this column. Roll to 7. That is 1 step loss for the PAVN. I think I'll take that step loss from the mortar. And the FWA gets a victory point. Now the attacker rolls. The attacker has 2, 5, 7, 10, 11 attack strength points. Plus train effects. So that would be +1. So rolling, 3 plus 1 is a 4 on the 11 column. 1 step loss for the FWA. Now the owning player determines which unit takes the loss. I think I'll just take it from Charlie 17. And the PAVN player gets a victory point. Since units remain on both sides, we roll against the highest efficiency rating in each stack. For the PAVN, it's going to be a 6. So he will not be assaulting again. For the FWA, also 6. And he will be rolling. So now we have a defense strength of 2, 6, 11, 15. Pretty good defense. no modifiers, 7. Another step loss for the pavin. And again, I'll take it from the mortar, which brings another victory point. Alright, so that takes care of the assault for this hex. So I can mark these 2 hexes as being done. And now we move on to the next one, the next combat. Starting with the combat resolution, attack coordination. So for this hex here, I just realized I didn't mark my mortars as having fired earlier. Alright, with this hex here, rolling for attack coordination, we can use the headquarters ER of 6 because we're within command range. Roll to 3, so he is coordinated. No maneuver combat. Defender allocates and resolves air and or artillery. I think the defender in this hex is going to allocate artillery from LZ Victor. And that will be their first fire. So I have a total of 8 bombardment points. The Pavin player has 2, 4, 6, only 7 steps adjacent, so he cannot use air defense. So on the bombardment table, with 8 bombardment points, oops, down here, 8 bombardment points, no modifiers, roll to 10. Big whiff again. Alright, next defender rolls first on the assault combat table. So the defender has 12 defense strength. None of these modifiers apply, just a straight roll. 10 in the 12 column. Nothing. Now the attacker rolls with an attack strength of 13. And they will have to add 1 for train effects. So in the 13 column, roll +1. 4 + 1 is a 5. 1 step loss for the FWA. And that gives the Pavin another victory point. Units remain in both hexes, so we'll roll again for ER. It'll be a 5 for the Pavin. He'll be attacking again. It'll be a 6 for the FWA. He'll also be attacking again. This combat will be simultaneous. So for the defender, 2, 6, 10. Rolling on the 10 column, no modifier. Rolled a 9, nothing. For the Pavin, still 13. +1 for train effects. 9 + 1 is a 10. No effect. So this assault is over. Now we'll move on to the final hex. The Pavin's conducting a maneuver assault against this hex. First we have to roll for coordination. Attack coordination, he's within 3 hexes of the headquarters. He rolled a 3, so he can conduct the maneuver combat. Right, we'll determine combat odds. So the Pavin has 10. FWA has a defense strength of, or attack strength of 2. I mean defense strength, we're going to use defense strength here. Defense strength of 2. So that is a ratio of 5 to 1. Let me write this over here so I don't forget for later, because I have a good memory, but it's short. Okay, choose lead units. There's only one unit here, so Bravo 1st to the 7th will be the lead. And over here I'll use Alpha 9 of the 66. As a matter of fact, I'll put him on top so I don't forget. Right, comparing efficiency ratings. Alpha 9 of the 66 has a rating of 6. The FWA player has a rating of 5. So there's going to be a 1-column shift in favor of the Pavin. So this will become a 6 to 1. 6 to 1. Does that look like a 6? There we go, that's better. 6 to 1. Both sides, attacker first, allocate support fire. I think the Pavin is going to allocate both mortars again. 1, 2, 3. They're both within 3 hexes, which is their range. So we'll allocate mortar support to here. That will be their second fire. And that's a total strength of 4. So going to the bombardment column, bombardment table. No modifiers, rolling on the 4 column. That's a 5. So the Pavin player will get a -1 for his support. Now the FWA player will allocate his mortars, or artillery rather. That would be their second fire. Rolling on the 8 column. 8 with an 8, that is a 1. So we'll get a +1 for the Pavin player. So for maneuver support, this is a wash. -1 +1. Alright, attacker rolls on the maneuver combat table. So let's go to here. We're on the 6 to 1 column. Let's see. No shifts, no efficiency rating shift. Let's check here. Nobody's fatigued in the defender's hex. No leader rating, no armor. Only attacking from 1 hex. No patrol marker. Plus terrain effects. And there's no support result from either side. So it's just plus terrain effects. And the FWA player is in a mountain jungle hex. So that will be +2 on the 6 to 1 column. 2 + 2 is a 4. So the defender will take this 4 right here and divide it by the TDV of his hex, as indicated here. And the TDV of Mountain Jungle is 4. So that will result in 1 step loss. And step loss, and then he needs to fatigue 3 units. Well, let's see what we have here. Get rid of all of these. Well, once he takes his step loss, he is eliminated. So that will give the Pavin player another victory point. There's no one left to take a fatigue. And now the Pavin player has the option of advancing into this hex. So what are the pros and cons? Well, if I move somebody into here, There will now be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes surrounding the objective hex. And also this is pretty good defensive territory. So I think maybe I'll move that unit into there. Alright, that was maneuver combat. There's no assault combat for that hex. So that ends the Pavin turn. Alright, so now I can get rid of these. And now it's the FWA turn. Alright, so let's see, game turn 29. The Pavin or the FWA player does get another reinforcement that's going to arrive here in LZ X-ray. There are already 4 units in that hex, so when he arrives they'll be overstacked by 1 stacking point. That means everyone's efficiency rating will be reduced by 1. So when Alpha 27 gets there, his ER will only be a 5, and he has to roll for hot landing zone. So in the hot landing zone, there's a +1 die roll modifier for every 2 additional hexes occupied by enemy units beyond the first. So 1 to 2 hexes is a 0, 3 to 4 hexes is a +1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a +1. 5 to 6 hexes is a +2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So his efficiency rating is now 5. He's going to have a +2 to his die roll. So he's going to have to roll 3 or less to remain unfatigued. And he didn't do it. So he is fatigued. Alright, move ground units. Well, fatigued units, as far as I know, can still move. They just can't attack. So I think what I'll do is move the fatigue unit and his fatigue marker into here. Alright, nobody else will be moving. Let's see if the FWA player is going to conduct any combat. Let me get rid of all this mess up here. I have a defense strength of 6, 11, 15. Still pretty strong defense. I don't know if I want to risk anybody in maneuver combat. Let me put my fatigue guy in the bottom here. I have an attack strength of 8 here. I don't know that I want to take a chance of losing any units in maneuver or assault combat right now. I think I might hold out until the end of the next turn and see what happens. So I'll say for now there'll be no combat declaration. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. No combat declaration. I have no units left available for offensive bombardment, so I can't do that. And since there's no declared combat, there's no combat resolution phase. So that'll be the end of the FWA player turn. So now we can reset the FWA air points to 0, which they already are, and this is not the last turn. So now we move on to the beginning of game turn 4. All right, adjust FWA air points, another 15, but he's lost one, so he's only going to get 14. Put this back in the 14 box. Remove first and final fire markers. There will be no fatigue recovery, no headquarters being replaced. There are no more reinforcements for the Pavin. Move ground units. Don't see a need to move any ground units. Declare all maneuver and assault combat. Alright, this will take a little thought. Let me see how many defensive points I have in here. 6, 11, 15. If I wanted to have a large enough ratio for maneuver combat, I would need at least 45 attack strength for the Pavin, and even better, 60. So how many do I have? Well, let's see. Here I have 4, 10, 12, 15, 17, 20, 22, 24, 26, 30, 34, 38, 39. So not even 3 to 1 odds here. Well, if I want to have the absolute best chance of moving or getting losses with an assault, I would need to use my strongest units, 4 stacking points worth. Let me think about this for a minute. I think what I might do is move my reduced Alpha 766 unit over to here. So that then I can move. No, that wouldn't help me any. No, scratch that. Actually, I think I'll do that. Move my reduced unit to here and move this full strength unit over to here. That will give me an attack strength here of 7, 10, 12, which is pretty decent for an assault. Let's see what else. No matter how I do it, I won't have enough points available for good ratio for maneuver combat. So what I need to do is get a bunch of step losses against the FWA to have any chance of getting victory points. So I think I'll assault this stack here. And this is my last opportunity to get into this hex, so I guess now would be a good time to just send everybody else in. What the heck, I'm playing against myself. Let's see what happens. So I have a defense strength here of, what did I say, 6, 11, 15. So I have 2, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 21, 23, 25, 27. So it'll be 1 to 1 odds on the maneuver combat table. So let me write some of this stuff down because I'll forget. So the attacker here would have 27. The FWA player has a defense strength of 15. So that would be a 1-to-1 for maneuver combat. So everything's going to come down to a good coordination roll. Now I do have mortars available for maneuver support, and so will the FWA. Alright, let's do it. I'm sure some of you are thinking these aren't the best tactics in the world, but that's what I'm going to do. Oh, that's going to be maneuver. And this will be maneuver. And this will be maneuver. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Got to flip this. Boy, that looks absolutely frightening, doesn't it? Alright, so that's my combat declaration phase. Let's see what happens. Offensive bombardment. I think I'll start with my mortars. Attacking into here. That's a bombardment strength of 4. No modifiers apply. Roll the 7, which is a 1 divided by the TDV as a fraction. No effect. Combat reaction. There will be no refusal, no defender reaction. Attack coordination. Alright, starting with this hex. Well, the only one being attacked. We'll roll against the headquarters ER of 6 because all the attacking units are within the command range of 3, and I can trace a line to each unit without going through enemy zone of control. So it all comes down to this. 7. Very bad news for the Pavin player, because that is ER plus 1. That means the attack is uncoordinated. There will be no support allowed from the mortars, no maneuver, or the maneuver combat will have a shift to the left, and all attack rolls will get a plus 1 die roll modifier. Well, that was a bad result for the Pavin player, but it could be worse. We'll see. Alright, so the attack is uncoordinated. Maneuver combat step. We'll determine the combat odds. We've already determined the combat odds were 1-to-1. So let me put this over here. There'll be a lot going on this turn. Choose the lead units. I think I'll use Alpha 9 of the 66th as the lead unit for maneuver combat on the Pavin side, and I'll use Bravo 2 of the 7th for the FWA, the 2 ones on top. Determine column shifts based on ER difference. Well, they both have an efficiency rating of 6, so no column shift based on that. There will be no maneuver support. And then I'll attack on the maneuver combat table, but the Pavin is going to have a column shift to the left because they're uncoordinated. So let's go to the maneuver combat table. We're in the 1-to-1 column. Shift to the left for being uncoordinated, that's the 1-to-2 column. No efficiency rating shift. Nobody is fatigued in the defender's hex. There's no support, no leader, no armor. Nobody is coordinated, so that won't apply. No patrol marker. Plus train effects for the defender's hex, which will be just a +1. +1 on the 1-to-2 column. 6 plus 1 is a 7. Not good for the Pavin. The assaulter fatigues 3 units, beginning with the lead unit. So that will be this guy here. And I think I'll reduce 2 Viet Cong units. Alright, so that takes care of the maneuver combat. Let's go to the assault combat step. The defender allocates and resolves air and or artillery. I guess I could have used FWA support for that maneuver combat. Oh well, another opportunity lost. Defender allocates and resolves air and or artillery. So now I'll just allocate everybody. So what do I have? I have 14 air points plus 8 bombardment points and let's see if the Pavin player can drum up any air defense fire. He needs to have more than 14 steps adjacent. 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, he's got more than enough. Okay. With a -1 die roll modifier. 3 -1 is a 2. That's a hit. Roll another d10. That's a 3. -2 air points. So now the FWA is down to 12 air points. So on the bombardment table, we'll be rolling on this column. No modifiers. 8. That's a 1 divided by the TDV of 2 is a fraction, no effect. Well, I did that wrong, didn't I? Because I didn't add in the 8 bombardment points. So it's 12 air points plus 8 bombardment points. So I should have rolled on this column with an 8. That's a 2 divided by the TDV defense of 2 is 1 step loss. So I guess I'll take that from my already reduced heavy weapons company. Oh, he's not reduced yet. Okay, I'll take him from here. The FWA player gets another victory point. And that takes care of defensive bombardment. Now, the defender rolls first on the assault combat table. We have 2, 4, 9, 13. -1 because the attacker is uncoordinated. 7 -1 is a 6 on the 13 column is another step loss for the Pavin player. So now I can reduce or eliminate this unit. And the FWA gets another victory point. Now the attacker rolls on the assault combat table. The attacker has 3, 6, 10. -1 for being, or +1 for being uncoordinated, and +1 for train effects. So it's +2 on the 10 column. 3 + 2 is a 5. 1 step loss for the FWA. So the Pavin player gets a victory point. Since units remain on both sides, roll against the highest ER in each stack. For the Pavin, it's going to be a 6. Roll for him first. He succeeded. For the FWA, it's also a 6. He did not succeed, so only the Pavin player will be rolling again on the assault combat table with 10 attack strength points and having to add 2 for being uncoordinated and terrain effects. Roll the 5 plus 2 is a 7. It's another step loss for the FWA. And another victory point for the Pavin player. Alright, that brings us to the second player turn. So it's time for the FWA. The FWA is not getting any more reinforcements. They received the last of them last turn. And I don't think we're going to move any units. No need to declare combat because we have more victory points now than the Pavin player. No sense in sustaining more losses. So no offensive bombardment. There will be no combat reaction and no combat resolution phase. So that is the end of the second player turn. Reset the air points to 0. They should already be at 0. And this is the last turn. So now it's time to assess victory points. Well, let's take a look here. The FWA gets 1 point for each Pavin step destroyed, so we have 15, plus 2 points for occupying LZ X-ray. That's 17. The Pavin player has 1 point for each US step destroyed, 7, and he is not in LZ X-ray, so he doesn't get the 5. So it looks like the FWA player came out ahead with 15 victory points, and he's the winner in this scenario. Alright, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop me a comment, and I'll see you next time for a new scenario. Bye.